Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing a second kit video. Now, if you guys know or if you've watched my what's in my professional makeup kit, I'll link that down below if you haven't seen it. But if you guys don't know, I am a professional makeup artist and I think it will be really interesting to kind of see these kit videos and what I think is appropriate and what I think is amazing and what I think is just good to have in my personal kit and maybe yours as well. So these are basically just going to be a series of videos that I do. I have a lot planned for this particular series. This one is going to be my favorite, or I think the best products for an oily to combination oily base. So when I say base, I do mean prepping the skin, priming the skin, what foundations I think are really working well with my kit, and also what powders that are working well for me as well. So without further ado, let's jump in. So I will start off with the actual prepping the skin. So if you have a client that is more of a combination to oily or oily skin, I always prep their skin pretty much the same way as I would with myself, because I do have more combination to oily skin, so I can definitely sympathize with them with having more oilier skin. So typically I will spend a little bit more time on their base just because I want it to stay the longest. Having, you know, like an oily skin to dry skin, it's totally different how I prep the skin. I find with oily skin, obviously if you sweat or if you get really oily, especially in the T-zone area, around the forehead, around the nose and down, you know, the center of the face, I find that makeup typically wears off a lot quicker. So I will always prep it a little bit differently compared to someone with drier skin. So with someone with oily skin, I will always start with moisturizing and prepping their skin. So for moisturizer, I have been really enjoying the Henriksen. This is the Sheer Transformation. I do have the full size of this, but the full size is massive, so I like to keep the little one in my kit, and I'll just, you know, decant it and just put it in the small one just to make it a lot easier, and just for, you know, space and everything. This is just a little bit more convenient. So the Sheer Transformation is a very simple kind of moisturizer. There's nothing fancy about it. It basically will just hydrate the skin, but it's also very, very, very thin. So using it underneath makeup to prep for an oilier skin is definitely ideal. I definitely don't ever want to skip out on any kind of moisturizing on the skin. Even if you are more of an oily skin, it still is very important to prep the skin properly, and moisturizing and hydrating is still definitely a must-have. Even though we're more oily skin, we still do lose hydration throughout the day. So this is definitely a must-have, and prepping your client's skin properly is definitely a must-have as well. That just ensures that their makeup is going to last as long as it possibly can, and I find moisturizing is still definitely an important step, and this one just works really, really well. But you can use any kind of moisturizer that works for oilier skin types. I'm sure if you go to one of the stores like Sephora, if you go to Priceline or wherever, if you do ask whoever's working there what is the thinnest kind of fluid moisturizer, I'm sure they'll be able to point you in the right direction. But for now, this one works really well for me and I've really been enjoying it. Now, as for someone who has really oily skin, I will then typically go in with a finishing spray. This I will use to prep the skin as well. This, again, will just ensure that their makeup lasts that little bit longer, especially if you do have more of a full-on oily skin. If you do have more combination to oily skin, it's not super essential, but I find if someone has really oily skin, then I'll typically spray their skin with this first, just so it will lock in everything beforehand and after as well. And I'll usually finish with this as well, just to ensure that everything will stay as long as possible. This particular one is by Maybelline. It's the Master Fix. There are so many that people love and just, you know, rave about, like the Urban Decay All Nighter Spray. Those kinds are very, very popular. I'm still yet to invest in those. I haven't tried them yet, so I'm sure they are amazing though, because everyone raves about them. But for something that is a little bit more affordable, this is definitely something that I've really been enjoying, and it works wonders for oily skin. Let's talk primer. So priming is probably the most important step that you can do for a more oilier skin tone or skin type. So I do carry a few different ones in my kit for oilier skin. I do carry 3 that I really, really enjoy. So the first one that I love and just live by for all skin types is the Benefit Porefessional. This is definitely an amazing product. Now, I will say that not everybody loves the silicone base, something that feels very velvety on the skin. If someone doesn't really like that, I do have 2 other options that they can go for. But for pretty much every single skin type, I really enjoy this. It is a silicone based primer, meaning it does feel very velvety on the skin, and it's basically going to fill in all of your pores, your fine lines, and it's going to blur over everything as well. So it's going to give a very nice matte appearance. This is great for more mature skin, definitely someone who has more of a oilier skin type. It's just an all-round favorite of mine personally, and I know a lot of people love it for good reasons. And Benefit is a great brand as well, and that's why I keep their other primer in my kit as well. This is the Benefit, the Porefessional Matte Rescue. Again, great for oily skin types or combination oily skin types. If someone doesn't prefer the silicone based primers, which I really haven't come across anyone who doesn't, but if they don't like it, then I will go in with this, because this one is still going to give you a matte finish, but it is more of a gel texture. So it is really lightweight on the skin. It's going to give a matte finish to the skin as well, but it just feels very lightweight on the skin. It's not that heavy kind of silicone velvety base, which some people might not like. But yeah, this is also a must-have if they don't like the Porefessional. So also, if I'm ever working outdoors, or if you're ever doing an outdoor shoot or anything like that, adding an SPF in your primer definitely doesn't hurt, I suppose. Something that's not really going to have much of a flashback though. So one that I have really been enjoying is the Laura Mercier. This is the Foundation Primer Protect, so it has SPF 30 in it. Personally, I haven't had a problem with it having like a flashback on there at all, so that's always a bonus, but I always will go in with like an SPF underneath and just make sure that the foundation that I'm using doesn't have an SPF as well, because I feel like that's the kind of thing that balances it out a little bit. But if you're ever doing some kind of outdoorsy shoot or whatever, adding a little bit of SPF is always a bonus, and the Laura Mercier ones feel like a moisturizer rather than an actual primer. So these are really nice, and this one again is great for more mature clients or someone who does have pretty much any skin type, dry skin, oily skin, more mature skin. Anyone can use this, and I find that it works great. So on to foundation. Now I do carry a few different foundations in my kit just in case, especially for oilier skin. I find that I kind of go towards like specific foundations. So my main source of foundation that I typically go for every single skin type is the Kryolan TV Paint Stick. The reason why I love it so much is because it is very versatile and you can pretty much do anything with it. So you can really shear it down with a damp sponge, or you can make it like maximum full coverage. And there are so many different colors in this little kit. You can get different ones and you can purchase them at full size. I do own a full size one of my particular color and I love it. So these are really, really lovely. You can mix and match with them. You can dig a little bit out with your spatula, put it on your palette and mix any color that you like, from either the really light one to the really dark one, and you can pretty much customize any color that you like. So that is definitely my main source of foundation and I love it. It honestly is incredible. There's no SPF in it. It has an amazing photography, like it looks amazing in photography, and it's just all around a really great foundation. It's definitely something that I would recommend picking up for any kind of kit, whether if it's the Kryolan one or they do have them from Nye. They've also got, you know, like the Bobbi Brown ones. Any kind of like foundation kit, you will typically find that they won't have SPF in them just because they're super, super concentrated. So they're not going to have any kind of flashback. They're going to look very flawless on the skin as well. So they're definitely something that I recommend picking up rather than having like different foundation bottles. Saying that though, I do carry foundation bottles in my kit just in case. So one that I particularly love myself, and it's not everybody's cup of tea, but it is definitely mine. And just keep in mind, I do have combination oily skin as well, so it's going to work. This is the Becca Ultimate Coverage Complexion Cream. Longest name in the world, but it is a really beautiful foundation that is super full coverage. It really photographs quite beautifully. It's still very creamy, but it doesn't feel super heavy on the skin. So something that is more full coverage usually will feel a little bit heavier on the skin. That's just the way it goes. This particular one, it doesn't feel heavy on the skin. I find it really thins out once you've blended it out, and you really don't need much of it at all. So all around really lovely foundation. It does have a hefty price tag though. They are $72 Australian. But I mean, if you're wanting to pick up one for yourself or a couple different shades, I would highly recommend them. They're beautiful. Also on the two other ones that I carry that are on the lower kind of price point, the Sephora 10-Hour Wear Foundation. This looks so pretty on the skin. I find it gives a matte finish. It is so lovely. It gives medium to full coverage, very buildable, and it's just all around a really nice foundation. And I think it's $20 $9, I'm pretty sure, so it's not super expensive, but it's just a really nice foundation. It is oil free as well. There's so many shades that you can choose from. I think from memory there's like 10 to 12 shades, I'm pretty sure, so it's a pretty decent shade range, and they go really dark to really light, so it is a range that I would recommend checking out. They also have 2 other foundations as well in their range, one that's water based and one that's gel based, and they are both beautiful. I love the gel based one, but this one's really great for anyone who has more of a combination oily skin, or anyone who, you know, wants a little bit more coverage. This one is nice. And one that is a little bit cheaper is the Maybelline Dream Velvet. This looks gorgeous on the skin. I personally really enjoy this, and this is quite affordable for a foundation, but I love Maybelline foundations to begin with. I love their Fit Me. It looks so gorgeous on the skin. I love their matte one. I love the dewy one. It's so lovely. But this matte velvet one is really nice. It gives a very soft matte finish to the skin, very airbrushed. It looks very pretty. And again, they have a really nice shade range as well. And this one is like that whipped kind of moussey texture. Very nice on the skin. I would definitely recommend checking out a couple of these because they're a little bit more affordable. Now, as for powder, I would typically use more of a translucent powder myself. I definitely prefer more of a translucent to colored for more oily skin, because I find with oilier skin, I typically have to powder it a lot more than I do with drier skin, and I don't want to add too much more coverage because a lot of the foundations that I carry are already medium to full coverage anyway. So I typically go in with a translucent. Now, whether if that's that pressed or loose, that's totally up to you and how you like to go about it. Obviously, a little bit more of a hygienic way to go is definitely a loose. This one's just by Nye. It's their neutral set. So it is translucent. There's no color to it whatsoever. Even though it is white, it doesn't leave a white cast, which I love. This is really nice for light baking as well. I have used this to bake on myself and a few other clients as well, and it works really nicely. Obviously, being a little bit more hygienic, you can just tip this onto your palette, and that's, you know, how you would use it. But this is really lovely. Again, something that I would recommend. I know everyone loves the neutral set and the banana for good reason, but it's definitely something that I would recommend checking out and picking up if you do want to go the loose powder way. And I know everybody and their mother is addicted to baking, and people will most likely ask you for it as well. So if they are into that, definitely try something like this. It is really lovely. And then if you want to go for the pressed powder way, which I personally am quite a fan of, I just desanitize. Is that a word? I just sanitize everything kind of in between people. But if you do end up going for it, I do enjoy the Rimmel powders. These are super affordable. I think they're like $13 or something ridiculous. So this is really nice. This is their clear complexion in just the translucent. I know the translucent original one is definitely a favorite of mine, and I have purchased so many of them. It is crazy. But this one is pretty much exactly the same as the original translucent. It works just as well. It's a personal favorite of mine, and it works wonders for everybody. It is a beautiful powder, and it is something that I would recommend if you are wanting to do pressed. If you are wanting something with a bit of color, that I find is a bit of trial and error, trying to find a range that does great kind of powders and, you know, what kind of coverage they're after. Really great ones that I do particularly like. I know the Sephora range has a lot of different powders. They have, I think, 4 different powders, and they range from prices. They've got really great colors. But if you're wanting to get something from like Priceline or something, the Australia's Fresh and Flawless is really great for something that is more medium to full coverage. The shade range isn't really that extensive though. Otherwise, Maybelline Fit Me is also a favorite of mine as well. It is beautiful. They've got a great shade range. Nothing too dark, but something that is typically fake tanned where it's a bit more golden. I find that works really well for that particular range, but yeah. So that, guys, is pretty much everything that I have in my kit that I would recommend to you guys. If there is anything that you recommend that I put in my kit, if you are combination to oily skin or oily skin, definitely let me know in the comments down below. I am always looking to extend my kit and add new products in there that I can test myself and to put in my kit. So again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.